Hey boys and girls, welcome back to the Myers Manx build. Got a little something to show you. Well, look at that, we got another greasy part. But what we do have is a 90% complete 002 bus transmission. I haven't looked to see what year it's out of. It's definitely not a 68 because it has just the two retaining bolts holding on the adjuster for the side gear set up there for the bushings. 68s had 6 nuts, and apparently those are, you don't want those. Okay, it is missing a bell housing. Somebody stole the bell housing for the use to be able to start engines off of. I have one though, so that's no big deal. It has a ring and pinion in there. It has the diff in there. It's only a 2-spider diff, but that doesn't really matter, I think, for what I'm doing. The ring and pinion doesn't matter because we're changing that out anyways. But it looks mostly complete. Alright, so we got a bus trans, but we are not going to be using this section of it right there. Alright, we're not going to use the nose cone, intermediate housing, or any of that stuff because we don't want to cut the body and we don't want to use a 10-degree mount. So how can you use this? Well, you call Whittle up. Berg used to make these, but apparently now it's Whittle makes them. And you buy a bus-to-bug adapter. They make these for 091s and 002s. 091 is definitely a stronger gearbox, 100%, no doubt about it. No questioning any of that stuff. The reason I went with an 002 is because I can get these. Alright? 091s in my area are like hen's teeth, and people want $1,200 for a broken gearbox. If I want to spend $1,200 on a box and then money to convert it over to what I need and stuff, you know, then I might as well be looking at a Mandola. I mean, in reality. But the problem with Mandola is the starter's on the top, so I'd have to cut the body. Alright, so we have the adapter. Basically, it converts it to a bug nose cone with beetle shift rods and stuff like that. No more of that funky linkage that usually the buses have. We got that. A while back, if you guys remember, we have in here the Gearbox mounts to actually mount this guy to our chassis, but not solid. Like all the other kits mount them solid. This one will actually have rubber isolators in there and keep it going. It doesn't mount it to the engine bolts. It actually mounts it to where the bell housing bolts to the transmission. Alright, so that's a much better idea, much better setup. In that bag there, we got ourselves a early model, like a 70 pre-pancake motor, basically. Bell housing. And the difference is, as you can see, that's the starter right there. It doesn't have the ears up here for the mount, because when they went to the pancake motor, they put the ears up there so they could hold it, as where it still had the mustache bar, but they added an extra mount to it when they went to the Type 4 because it was definitely a heavier motor. So we got that, we got this. We're not doing a transmission right now, but we have the parts and pieces family to do a transmission when we're ready to do a transmission. Alright, on to the motor. Let's see over here, boys and girls. We have it mocked up. Alright, it is, we actually did the check the camshaft for, where'd I put my math here? We did degree the cam. Alright, and it is 1 degree off. Alright, where is my... It's inside, of course. Alright, I'm one-handed right now. Forgive me. So according to the cam card, it is like 1 degree off on the intake. And the bad thing is Yeah, I got an adjustable cam gear, right? Yeah, there we go. You can adjust that thing 6 ways a Sunday in 2-degree increments. So even if I adjust it, it's going to be off one way or the other. So what's the point? But we did do it. All right. And what I got was, instead of 13 degrees intake opens, I got 15 instead of. So that was off a little bit, plus or minus a degree, I guess you could say. Exhaust closes at 8 degrees after top dead center, or actually that's probably before top dead center. It was 9 on the cam card, 43 on the intake closing, which is the same on there, 48 on the exhaust opening. So then I went through and did a whole bunch of crazy math and found out it's on like 110 lobe separation angle, which doesn't really matter to me. I don't know if this cam's ground on the 112. They don't put on here what it's actually ground to on the lobe separation angle, because they say basically all their cams are 107, but this is a turbo cam. They're typically on 112, so I don't know. I know that their gas mileage cam is 112. But anyways, we did do that. All right. So that is done, and that's actually a simple process. So basically these degrees are at 50 thousandths lift. So you'll put it on cylinder 1. I'm not on cylinder 1, but we'll just show you top dead center on cylinder 1, right? You'll have... Alright, we're back. Phone decided to cut out for a second. So anyways, you'll set it up cylinder 1, valves closed. You'll get a dial indicator, and you could use a stock push rod, all right, or something in there to be able to get to your lifter to not be wobbling around. So basically, you don't want to be sliding in and out of the hole, the recess in the lifter. So a push rod would work, and you can hang this off a cylinder or something like that so that it pushes your indicator up, okay? And so what we're looking for is we're going to have a little bit of preload, of course, on it, right there. But you're going to go until you hit 50 thousandths, and then you're going to come over here. And of course, you're going to turn in the rotation of the engine. So you would turn this way till it hits 50 thousandths on the dial indicator, and then you'll notate what degree that is, okay, of whatever you're doing. If that's the exhaust, that's the exhaust opens, all right? And then you'll go until it goes all the way to full lift, and then it comes right back down, and you'll notate at 50 thousandths before it closes what degree you're at then. And you'll do the same thing on the intake and on the exhaust, and then you can compare that to your cam card and see how far out you are. So it was not very far out. It was not worth messing with, so we're just going to keep it straight up. But we did check it. We can claim that we did check it, and mosquitoes are coming in here like there is no tomorrow, guys. So just a second. There we go. We're back. So you're just checking to see if the cam and crank basically line up. I mean, they're probably going to be off. Nothing's 100% perfect. But if it's off enough and you want to change it, that's where the adjustable cam comes in. You can change it. 2 degrees usually is what they adjust in, 2, 4, and 6. All right. So if for some reason you think the cam's too big, you could advance the cam. Let's say you wanted something in between, let's say like an angle 110 and an angle 120, and you couldn't find that. You could advance the angle 120, and theoretically it will come on a little earlier than if it was installed straight up, or whatever it is grind to, because you install it straight up doesn't mean that's actually straight up. It could already be 2 degrees advanced. All right, so that's why we check it. This one was pretty close. It's within 1 degree. It is not worth my effort to move it. If I did anything, I might retard it, because it's actually a turbo cam, so it should be on the low end side of the power range. So that's what we got done there. We also put a piston in there, and didn't take a photo or anything of that, and we put a cylinder on so we could measure how many shims we need, and we had positive deck height, of course. If I were to order this again, I think I would have ordered the thicker case. I think this is the 3.5. Yeah, this is a 3.5 mil. I think I should have ordered the 7 because it would have actually brought me about. I still had to use a shim, but it would have been a very small one. So we're getting a 90 thousandths and a 40 thousandths because it needed about 135 thousandths shim to come out to where I need. So we're going to put 130 thousandths in there because that's as close as I can get. And it will make it in like a 9.1 to 1 compression ratio. It's not crazy. I was shooting for like 9 to 1. So if I wanted to go bigger than that, the deck would have to be really dumb. It would have to be like 100 thousandths, and we're not going to do that. As we've seen with the 1835 that young gentleman brought that had like 200 and some odd thousandths deck, how the piston kind of sat there and rattled, it looked like, and the burn of the cylinder was totally uneven. We're not going to go super high deck. I've done super high deck motors before, but after seeing the one in a bus, because that thing actually had some stress on it, it does show that, you know, a tighter deck is better. Now, of course, that thing was way out there, 200 thousandths. You know, 80 thousandths, probably not going to do that bad a deal, but we're not going to go 100 thousandths on the deck. So it should bring it with a livable deck, I think somewhere in, I can't remember the math right now, but I think it would have been like in the 40,000. No, it would have been right around 60, because that's what I was shooting for. So it'll get, you know, a little higher than I wanted on the compression, but it should be fine. I don't foresee any problems with that. People are running higher compressions than they used to with the ethanol and the fuel anyways, so I don't believe I'll have a problem. Plus, we're pushing like 1,200 pounds, guys, right? I mean, this thing's not that heavy. So that's about all we've been up to. We got head studs on order. Had to buy the longer studs because I knew I'd need those. I was going to order them a long time ago, and now CB's out of stock on them. And racewares are unattainium. I'm not going to spend $700 on a set of studs almost. I think they were like $550. So we're not doing that. Although that would be the best way to go, but I'd have to have 10 millimeter studs to be able to get the longer ones. For some reason, they seem to only sell the 8 mils in stock length. So, and yes, I'm using 8 millimeter studs. It's kind of the bird thought, you know, too strong, pulling the stud out and all that. You know, I don't know if that's true or not, but I know people have done 8 millimeter studs and they've lived with it. We are not the top end of stuff here, so I don't believe I'll have an issue with that. The case has been clearancing really well. Everything's been going pretty good with it. There is a little bit of porosity in this case, I will admit it, on the main webs on one side only for some reason, not the other side, not both sides, but one side only has little bitty black specks that you can see in it. Should not be a problem. It's not a lot of it. It's just a little bit of casting flaw in it. I'm still not, you know, concerned about using it. I did sand down the case here and stuff because we are going to coat it with a heat transfer coating. So I kind of want it to look decent because I don't want it to look like garbage. This is like sandpaper looking, you know. But that's all the spaces you'll see. You'll never see that. You'll never see this unless you're looking underneath the car. So we got all that done, boys and girls. We still have to get some pieces here, and once we get that going, we can start putting each cylinder in there, checking all the deck heights, make sure they're all correct and straight, and then we can move on to probably setting ring gaps and stuff like that. And of course, this is going to have to come apart. This case will get coated. Everything's got to get cleaned. That is one thing. I did check the cam to oil pump clearance. All right, and it clears perfectly fine. But I will admit, CB, when they machine this out, or whoever machined this out, because they do buy these from Shadrick. If you look, it does say Shadrick. So it's either Shadrick or CB, don't know. The thing was full of aluminum shavings and dust. I don't know, maybe they're porting a set of heads next to it or something like that, and it was just there and open. Always clean your parts, boys and girls. Do not trust anything or anyone. I don't care if you get it from the best person in the world. Trust them. They all have bad days. You know, don't trust them. So just always check your stuff. Hopefully I don't drop this. Another thing is, on sick week, a gentleman had his oil pump gear spin on the shaft. Okay? And probably can't see it, but there is actually a key. CB actually keys their shaft. Alright? And the idea is so you can't spin the gears on the shaft. And I guess if you have cold oil and you wrap the car up, it is a possibility. But his did it. It spun on the shaft. You could spin the gear completely if you just held it with your hand like this. You could spin the gear if you held the tang. Alright, so it does happen. I've heard of people welding with a TIG welder the gear in there, because you do sometimes have to press this to get more engagement, or to keep the pump from doing basically this. You know, you can press the shaft in more into the gear and get everything to sit right. So if you have to, you can tack weld this with like a Heliarc or something like that. You might be even able to braze it, or invest in a keyed pump. So I always thought that used to be a myth until I seen it. Luckily, they're going to throw bearings in it, and they'll be back at sick week next year. So just a public service announcement. Make sure your parts are good. Anyways, boys and girls, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.